Yeah.
So we've had quite a bit of influence on American gospel music.
Interesting you say that, because I was in LA about 5 years ago, and I spoke to a respected gospel artist. He was asking about Paradise.
There you go.
I've heard heavyweights in the US ask about Levine Hudson when she was alive. So
yeah,
the stuff did cross over, definitely.
Yeah. We weren't aware of it at the time.
Yeah,
because we thought what we were doing was trying to reach
emulate
the
them.
level of them.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what we thought we were doing, but we were being very innovative. We were, in as much as we were being inspired by them, we were still developing our own style, which is what I've always advocated that we do here. Bring our own message, our own story to the table, musically and lyrically, melodically, and I think that's we in some ways, some of our artists haven't quite locked into that.
Yeah.
But people respect us much more when we do that, because you're telling your story and not copying someone else's.
Yeah, because I mean, even going back to the whole the Black History thing, if you think about it, our the African diaspora that was taken to the Caribbean and then came here as part of the Windrush generation, it's totally different. Even though contemporary issues now, a lot of people in society are thinking we're just being in solidarity with what's going on in the States and jumping on that. Well, no, it's because, I mean, for a start, if you take the American flag, the 13 stripes of the original Union were the British colonies that became states, because that used to be British America. So the thing is, where do you think it came from in the first place? This whole, racism, segregation, the whole kind of thing. It's just that a lot of times it's more covert in this country, but we've had our own struggles, definitely.
Struggles, indeed.
That's gonna be told through a different lens than people that are 4 generations deep in being taken from Africa to the States. Totally different, totally different dynamic. Still racism, but totally different.
Oh, absolutely. You must have read some of the accounts of how things happen on the islands, on the different islands.
Yeah.
Barbados have been recently, they're talking much more about what happened on Barbados. Jamaica, know about the revolts. They had a revolt in Barbados. And so the stories are there. And as I said to people, the journey has many similarities between us and our American brothers and sisters. But we need to find out more about our own story and tell that. Tell it, and because you talk to your parents, and some of the things they will say to you would realize that it's so powerful, and that is what our foundation. We are sitting, walking on that foundation, that journey, that pain, that suffering, the whole struggle. But a lot of them held on to faith. They believed that God was taking them through it, and that's what they held on to, and that's what we have grown up as a result, depending on to show us the direction forward.
As we've spoke about the States, your demographic of outreach has been, because you guys have done Europe, you've even gone to Japan, and you've kind of so it's almost like, as you said, your career didn't actually have to depend on the States, because you just really built up a following. And interestingly, I saw on Instagram where when Donald Lawrence came over a few years ago, he was actually, I saw the tweets and everything, that he was actually honored to meet you. So that was...
we've clicked very, very well, and we talk fairly regularly now. We met again in Barcelona a couple of years. Was it last year? I'm terrible with things like these. A One Heart Festival. We're both guests, and he came over with his singers. We shared time. We did some videos together to help to promote the festival there. And we were just talking about, I was on the verge of doing a gospel choir event in Barbados for this year, 2020. And Donald was going to be one of my main guests for that, possibly with a few other Americans. But that event was going to be including mainly British artists. LCGC and Kingdom Choir and one or two others, and it was going to be happening because I was going to be doing this in conjunction with the tourist board of Barbados. So they were very much behind it. We were all geared up to make it happen. And then this demon virus came in and knocked the business, as we say. But yeah, Donald is an amazing artist, lovely man. Yeah. And his heart is actually, they love him a lot in Europe. Yeah, I think he has made such an impression on people in Europe with his heart. And I think that's one thing, and just open to everybody. They love his music, and they people sing his music everywhere, but he's welcomed very much in Europe.
Yeah, and I think he's taken that mantle from the late Pastor Andre Crouch and Sandra Crouch, because they infiltrated Europe. And if you're going back to like Danny Bell live in Sweden with Coralina, and that was those guys really spent a lot of time there, and that definitely
again worked with Andre and a number of the guys, and toured with him in Scandinavia in particular, where he was most famous. Norway, Sweden.
That's right. Yeah.
Those two countries were Sweden, Denmark, Norway were probably the first European countries to really embrace gospel music, gospel choir music. And so Andre and his team Jesse Dixon, Danny Bell Hall, they used to all go to Scandinavia and conduct tours and concerts. And so I toured with Andre and his team. He actually did part of the tour here in UK as well. Mm-hmm. And then we can't talk about the 70s without mentioning or talking about the Hawkins family.
Oh, of course.
Who also came here and did shows in London, Birmingham, and places. Amazing artists. Mm-hmm. That were the people flying the flag for gospel music during the late 70s into 80s.
Yeah.
Just wonderful to be part of that.
I mean, even Maurice White produced the Hawkins Family album in 1980, the album with Whatever It Is. Yeah. So that shows you kind of, they were at the zenith of their career. So you end up receiving the MBE. So I mean, what an honor. I mean, and well deserved and long overdue. So how did that come about? How did that feel?
Thank you. It was I wasn't looking at that. I suppose when you're passionate about what you do, you just get on and do it, not necessarily looking for accolades or rewards of that nature. So I was really surprised when it arrived. My staff knew more about it than me. I think they were contacted by the palace or whoever is responsible for that months. So they were collating information about me. The staff had to put a lot of information, a lot of the history that I'd been involved in, and send it off for them to put the whole package together. So it was like, I think I was I received a letter. I received the letter with a seal on the back of it. So I looked at this letter, so this looks interesting. And I opened it the morning, and when I opened it, I saw it looked like something from very important people. And then I opened it and looked inside and read it. I said, "Ooh, this is interesting." So I don't think I completely read it. I was on my way to the office, so I put it back in the envelope into my bag. I walked into the office, and there are two of the ladies there. And I walked to my desk and I said, "Oh, I received a very interesting letter this morning. Looked like it came from Buckingham Palace." And immediately, it's as if a load fell off of their shoulders.
Wow.
Because they've been carrying this secret for months. I think I suppose they struggled with the excitement to hold it down and not mention anything because they were sworn to secrecy.
Wow.
And they said, "Oh, what letter was it? What letter? Did you get one letter from the palace?" I said, "Yeah, how do you know?" "Because we knew about it since May," or something like that.
Oh.
So you mean, so I said, "You've known about this, you've not said anything?" They said, "No, we could not say anything. We were sworn to secrecy." So yeah, it was a surprise, and grateful for the recognition. I have no idea who put me forward for it. They don't tell you who did that. And I think the date was announced officially. I was on holiday in Dubai, and I had my phone with me, and then all of a sudden, the phone lit up.
Wow.
I think it was on they put it on they make the announcement, so it became public announcement in newspapers and that sort of thing. And it's just ping, 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 congratulations, congratulations. And somebody said to me, what's wrong with your phone? I said, I don't know. So I went and picked the phone up, and then just saw all these messages when it came through. And it was a fabulous thing. And I said to many people, it's not just for me. You know, I'm the figurehead of the organization and the movement that's called London Community Gospel Choir. But I think it's for the hundreds of people who have been through the choir, who have been brave enough to follow my leadership. I led them into some places that got them alienated in their churches, from their churches. But they followed, trusting me, and I think we achieved that. That's what I say to them. It's not just for me. It's recognition of your commitment, your sacrifice, and we've done it together. We've been to many places together. We were thrown out of Poland, for example, because we went to Poland during the when they were still communists. When is it Lech Walesa?
Lech Walesa, yep.
That's right.
Solidarity.
So yeah. We were invited by the same guy who recorded that, produced that album in Sweden with us, the Feel the Spirit album, Lasse Olsson. He had a partner in Poland, record label wise, and they invited us over to tour, to do, I think it was meant to be 5 shows around Poland. And the authorities weren't too happy that we were they thought we were riling people up. We're getting people to enjoy themselves and laugh and be happy and linking hands and singing and dancing. And in one I think the final concert, which is after about 2 or 3 concerts we did, they actually sent soldiers into the concert, loaded with their guns. And we were singing a song, our theme song, Perfect Harmony. Isn't it good to be as one?
I remember that,
Living in perfect harmony, sharing the good things God has done. So we had them to link hands. Soldiers actually came down and broke the link. They didn't like that. They weren't going to like it. Just shows you how oppressive communism at the time was.
That was go ahead. That was about 1985, right?
There you go. You know better than me. I'm terrible with this.
Because I'll tell you what triggers my mind. Marvin Winans, Carvin Winans, and Barry Hankerson wrote a song called "Let My People Go" from the "Let My People Go" album. That was when they
great song.
Quest label. And the second verse says, "Now we're looking at the same situation in Poland and South Africa. They're using different names, but it's still Pharaoh. Satan is behind it." So Marvin Winans was very political in his writing. If you go back to The Question Is, in 1981, he said, "Look at the crisis in Iran. Russia has already invaded Afghanistan." So he was always at the cutting edge of political times. So when you said about Poland, Lech Walesa, it was about that time when "Let My People Go" was out. So and also one of your key songs, as well as "Is It Good to Be at One," was the Patrick Henderson and the West Angeles Church of God in Christ cut "My Soul Says Yes." I know you guys sing that a lot from their 1981 album, "To Jesus."
Man, that's our opener.
The
soul says yes, praise the Lord. Come on, everybody, it's time to start. Again, that album. So many wonderful songs on that album, Patrick Henderson. So we took those songs, and back to the Poland thing, they cut the concert short. We had to finish that night, and then they took our passports. Escorted us to the airport the next day.
My God.
We had to abandon the rest of the tour. they actually put the promoter in jail. He was in jail for about 3 years. We came back to London. We got in touch with the embassy straight away, and we complained, and we asked them to make a complaint to the Polish authorities about imprisoning our colleague. There's an American artist on the Steve Taylor, I think his name was on the tour with us.
Yeah.
He did the same thing. A few years later, wonderful story. A few years later, the British Council invited me and LCGC back to Poland. By this time, my colleague was out of prison, and after the concert, the ambassador invited me. We had an after party, we call it, and he said, "We have someone special for you to meet."
Oh, okay.
I had no idea who this was going to be. And by this time, my choir membership had changed.
Right.
And so the team I was with in Poland on this occasion weren't in Poland with me previously. So I walked in this room, and my friend stood up in front of me, his wife and his children. And it was a frozen moment, because I said, when you say, because I thought he was still in prison. And he was in the concert, and he was standing up in front of me, and he began to cry. And his wife cried, broke my heart. Of course, my tears flowed. We fell on each other's necks and just hugged, and just, by this time, my choir members are looking at me and wondering, well, what's going on here? Because, they had no idea what had happened. And it was such a moment, such a very, very special moment. So that's just another of the adventures and this situation that LCGC has been involved in throughout our travels. There was the occasion as well when about 45 of us almost died in Norway. Wow. In the bus we were traveling. We performed in Oslo the night, and we were on the way to the middle of Norway, Trondheim, to do the second concert, and we were involved in an accident. The bus almost went over a precipice. It was extraordinary thing happened. There was a car coming the opposite direction, and there was a couple in there with a child, and the bus, because there was black ice at this time, and so there weren't any lights anywhere. So the driver literally just touched the brakes as he was going down the slope to slow the vehicle down, and that was it. Lost control. It was slip sliding all over the place. There was a barrier with a precipice. There's a massive drop. And this car was coming the opposite direction. It hit the back of the bus and corrected it.
Right.
The driver was able to bring the bus to a standstill. So a number of us, and majority of the choir was sleeping at the time, because this was very late at night after our performance.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Went back to the car, and the driver had been killed. And the bus driver saw it, and he just fell apart, absolutely distraught. So by this time, a number of people ran out from the choir. We went back there. The services, there were houses around the areas. They heard the impact and came out, and they called the authorities. So that's another major thing. We've had some interesting things to happen to us during our journey down through the years. So we thank God that I'm still here to tell the story, and we've not had any tragedies.
I think
that was a very close save.
Indeed, I think people don't realize that if you look at the scriptures and you see the Apostle Paul and the missionary journeys, you guys, that's what came to mind. You was like, you guys are contemporary, missionaries who were on the mission field. Some people, they would think the ministry of music, you guys were just singing, but you were ministering. People were, thrown in prison. People, almost lost life, for the gospel. So
yeah, yeah, and we saw ourselves exactly that. We use a different means, different methods to what you use in your church services.
yeah,
And I think that's what some people kind of struggle with. If it was
yeah.
not identical to what happens in church, then it's not right.
Mhm.
But you couldn't use that method in the sort of areas we were performing in. You had to present the gospel in a different way. And we were finding that, we were being received very well wherever we go, whatever language, places like Beirut, Morocco, Muslim audiences.
Mhm.
We were going to these places regularly and performing to very big audiences, and people were being touched and moved by what they were seeing and hearing. So it's we're at the same time. I always said to the choir, we're ambassadors for the UK.
Of course.
Sometimes maybe a lot of the time, the information that they would get through the media about what happens with the Black community in London, UK, can be quite negative.
Right.
But here we are, showing that, well, it's not all what you're seeing through the media. This is the other side. And again, of course, LCGC was birthed during the riots of 80, 82, 83, some of the 80s. Yeah, and so we were written about because we represented a different side of the community that you don't hear too much about. Mm-hmm. So very proud to be have been instrumental in inspiring the movement that started back there in terms of the way we looked at ourselves as Christian people. It was not how you dressed up the outside, because a lot of the criticism that we received was our outward appearance, whether we wore a little bit of makeup, any jewelry of any.
Of course. Yeah.
That was a lot of the ladies of LCGC,
skirts
were given a hard time in their churches, as you know.
No head coverings and
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All that has changed, thank God. All that has changed a lot. I think the LCGC had a lot to do with that.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Last point. So we're in 2020. We've got the pandemic, but what's come up is the original pandemic, the one of racism that has been going on.
Call it by name.
We're in the Black History Month, and we've spoke earlier in the year about the elephant in the room, which is as again we've said earlier in this conversation, it's not just an American problem. You've lived through Windrush, and you've got children. So what have you been telling your sons? What are you looking at? How we can change things in the community. I'm sure you heard about when you were growing up, you had to work twice as hard because you were Black, and so this thing isn't a myth. We've actually lived this thing. So what can we do now and going forward?
Having lived through the changes that have happened, and there have been many changes. I was abused as a young Black boy, called all the names under the sun. I will never forget them. I never forget being smacked around the head by bigger white boys in school. I went to school with 1,300 boys, and I think there were probably about 15 Black boys in the school at the time. This was late 60s. And fighting was one way of survival and resisting the attitude of the white kids that we went to school with. So we stood up for ourselves. My father just taught me, if anybody disrespects you, you better stand up. Don't come home and cry to me. That's the Caribbean attitude. That's how we were taught. Don't come crying home to me with long tears. If you have some bruises, it shows me that you've stood up for yourself.
If they hit back,
hit back. Don't let them push you around. So that's what we did, and that's. They soon learn that we will not be pushed around easily. And then in the area I lived, you saw the signs. You hear it all the time. No No blacks, no Irish, no dogs. That's all. They're there. I pass the shops frequently, and I look at the same shops. They're owned by immigrants now, those same shops. But they boldly put their notice back then. So, things have changed, and I thank God for that. And I think it's education has played a big part in that. I've always told my children, you respect everybody, whatever color they are. If they disrespect you, then you need to stand up and resist it. Verbally, if they're physically attempting to harm you, then you need to be physical as well. But that should never be your first point. I don't have a problem with being or encouraging them to be physical. I think we should not be sheep. People need to know that we are confident and will defend ourselves if we are feeling, if we are being threatened. But it's about loving people, showing people respect, and you should expect it back. Working hard, as you rightly said, we always have to. I've always told them that you need to do a little bit more than your colleagues, whatever culture they happen to be. You're a black person, and there is always that negative attitude and feeling, decision making against you. You need to work harder, because that's how the system is stacked against us. And I think we must continue doing that, because we haven't come out of that particular mire yet. It's still there. As you said, it's very covert here. And the community we live in, this country, they're excellent at keeping things hidden, but at the same time, you've got a nail in your side. They will try to keep you under the thumb, but you've got to realize that not everybody's like that. I mean, we mustn't tag every white person either, because I was encouraged, I should say. I went on one of the marches back in whenever they were happening, August, July, and I was amazed to see the amount of white young people of all ages, but predominantly young people who were there. It shows that they have experience, they've learned, they've educated themselves, they've taken notice of the disadvantage that their black counterparts have had to live with, the challenges, and they're out there saying, well, no, this has to stop.
Well, to be fair, to that point, I remember in the 80s, my parents have passed away, but I remember my dad used to say to me that even here in the streets of Manchester, you would go and see the Students' Union, the white young people, they'd be shouting in the 80s, "Free Nelson Mandela," and that, it was those they were doing more than some of us as black people were doing. So, you go back to the civil rights movement in the 60s, you always had the white allyship. So it's not going to be one race alone. It's going to be us coming together to fight. And that,
that's the only way to overcome it. And I'm very inspired and encouraged that people, whatever color, culture, brown, black, pink, whatever, we are coming together to address this inequality and this injustice that has continued for over 400 years. And I mean, people must realize that this has been going on. We have got on with it, I think. And what I've realized, some of my white colleagues have not realized, because I am not complaining about it all. We just get on with our life. We make the best of what we have. In spite of the wrongs that are being done to us, we've still smiled and work to earn a living and bring up our children and do what we are meant to do. So they're surprised now that this has now come to
talking about it.
And we're talking about it. We're letting them understand, well, no, it's not that I accepted it. It's just that if I was to really give vent to my emotions and feelings, nothing good would come of it.
You'd been labeled the aggressive black person. Yeah, exactly.
So we as a people, we recognize that we've still got to try and live in spite of this load, this injustice that we face every day. And some of them struggle to that's where it's difficult. That's why we still need to be a bit patient, because some of them don't understand just how they are not being fair, where they have advantages that we don't ever get.
Yeah.
And it's not that we don't get it, it's being withheld from us.
Yes.
So they're now beginning to hear the reality of our existence and recognizing, no, this is wrong. The young people anyway.
Yeah.
You find a lot of the old people who are being, oh my goodness, it's etched in them. It's in their DNA.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll ever change them. But the young people now who have a different journey, they're growing up with people of different cultures, the Black, the Asian, Oriental, and so forth.
Yeah.
They're growing up with, and they're learning, well, they're friends, they're neighbors, they're people just like them. And why shouldn't they, if they work as hard as I do, why, if they qualify for whatever they are attempting to achieve, they should get the same results. And that is refreshing to see and hear. And I mean, I look at the TV now. I just saying to someone today, if you seeing the difference in how diverse TV programming is now, you know, in adverts, for example, whereas you saw predominantly white faces, white actors and so forth, now it's very mixed, and there's a lot more representation going on from the Black community.
Well, that is actually being complained about. The you know, like you've got the Tesco.
Oh yeah.
And interestingly, the white fragility defense that always comes back is, what more do you want? Britain is a very tolerant country. Now, to that, I always say tolerance just means putting up with. So, you know, if we're a tolerant country, that's nothing to be proud about, because I don't want you to tolerate me. I want us to be seen as equal.
That's right, equal, and that's it. Whatever you get, whatever you're allowed to have, or whatever you can achieve, it should be afforded everybody else based on ability and skills.
Yeah.
You know, and that's all we're saying. I mean, somebody had rightly said, I watched the young lady in one of the online American coverage of one of the scenes that took place there. A young lady said, well, white folk need to be thankful that we're not asking for revenge.
That's right. Exactly.
You know, we're not looking for revenge, and that shows the quality of the people that we are.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you know, it's about equality, justice. Yeah. That is what we seek. We don't want to be, we don't try to be better than you.
Yeah.
We want you to recognize that we are equal, and just open the door and allow us to live on the same platform and get the same benefits. If we are deserving of them, then we should have them. If you are entitled to them, so should we, and so forth and so forth. But it's a very powerful statement that was said, and I took notice of that. We should continue. We must work hard at it. Yeah. I always comment on it in my concerts. I'm not afraid to do that. I think, and people appreciate that, so that they can understand what the London Community Gospel Choir, what I'm about. It's about bringing people, opening people's eyes to the reality, or the best way that we should be living is respecting each other as human beings. We all should have the same advantage. There shouldn't be any one race that is above the other.
Indeed. Bazil, it's been great. So where can people find you? You know, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram?
Yeah, I'm everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, Messenger, Twitter. I've taken down my Twitter recently because someone's been trying to log in and use my things. I've been under attack recently, so I've taken the Twitter down. I'll probably return at some point. But easily available. The LCGC website, lcgc.org.uk, information there. We're planning to be releasing a single coming up the next few weeks, so watch out for that. Hoping that there'll be some innovation going on around doing virtual performances, because I think that's where everything will be going. So the run up to Christmas should be quite interesting for us.
I'm sure.
Thank you for inviting me to do this. I appreciate it very much.
I've enjoyed it. I'm sure many people will need that uplifting sound from LCGC, you know, because we've had such a year. So hope everybody will look out for you guys, because however you do it, virtually or not, but we'll need we'll need some of your sounds kind of put us back on track.
I think just a final note, I think a lot of people thought we had disappeared because Kingdom Choir came to the fore through the wedding and so forth.
Yeah, no, disappeared. No.
There was the interesting thing. So many people were disappointed for me on LCGC when they realized that it was not LCGC was going to be receiving the invite to sing at the wedding.
Right.
And it was another choir they've never heard of. But as I said, folk, it's there's a room for more than one, and it's great. Yeah, it's great to have another choir that folk can see, particularly about British gospel. It's not just LCGC, just community gospel choir, but Kingdom Choir has now come to the fore, and had amazing leg up because you could not have planned it better. It worked very well for Karen and her team, and God bless them. They've done very well. So, but LCGC is still very much here. We do a lot. Have been doing a lot of activities internationally. Yeah. So we're still very much on the motorway, and we will keep going for a number of years yet, I'm sure.
Yeah, everybody has a lane, so
absolutely. And when folks said it's up to me, that we said, well, we're competing. No, we're not. There's enough room for everybody. Yeah, we've been here for 38, nearly 40 years, so it's highly unlikely we should feel that we've been outdone from anything that we're entitled. We're not entitled to anything. We just work, and what comes our way, hopefully we can deal with it and deal with it with grace.
Absolutely. Bazil, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Really, this has just been, I hope you enjoyed it. And
yeah, it's very interesting talking to you. You feel like you have so much knowledge about the world, what has happened down through the years. It's great to have that. You must put your book together. It's needed.
I've been told to do that.
No, you must do that. It's needed. We need to put down our stuff, and you probably remember more than I do because my head is full of all this stuff. But you put it into its lane, as you said, and get people following the journey. Yeah, we need to have more of that.
Indeed. God bless you, Bazil. Speak soon.
Bless you, Damon. Thank you very much. Bless you and the family.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay.